Senior Director of Investor Relations. Please go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Sherry, and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Tesla's fourth quarter 2020 Q&A webcast. I'm joined today by Elon Musk, Zachary Kirkhorn, and a number of other executives. Our Q4 results were announced at about 1 p.m. Pacific time in the update deck we published at the same link as this webcast. During this call, we will discuss our business outlook and make forward-looking statements. These comments are based on our predictions and expectations as of today. Actual events or results could differ materially due to a number of risks and uncertainties, including those mentioned in our most recent filings with the SEC. During the question and answer portion of today's call, please limit yourself to one question and one follow-up. Please press star one now if you'd like to join the question queue. But before we jump into Q&A, Elon has some opening remarks. Elon?
Thank you. So just to recap the year, 2020 was a defining year for us on many levels. Despite a challenging environment, we reached an important milestone of producing and delivering 500,000 cars. I'd just like to once again thank the people of Tesla for an incredible effort. We delivered almost as many cars last year as we produced in our entire history. So really an incredible growth rate, and despite a very challenging 2020. So my hat is off. It's such an honor to work with such great people at Tesla. So, and for the year, we achieved free cash flow of nearly $2.8 billion after spending more than $3 billion on building new factories and other expenditures. We reached industry-leading GAAP operating margin in addition to positive net income and record cash flow. Regarding capacity expansion, while we focus on execution, we continue to build a lot of new capacity. We started producing the Model Y out of Fremont and have almost reached full production speed. We ramped the Model 3 in Shanghai to more than 5,000 cars a week sustainably, and Shanghai continues to grow rapidly. We introduced the heat pump to all of our vehicles. We ramped the single-piece. We started and were able to ramp to volume production the single-piece castings for Model Y. This is where, for the first time in history, the entire rear third skeleton of a car is being cast as a single piece in the largest and most advanced casting machine ever made. We built a Model Y factory in China from start to finish in 1 year. We're also building Giga Berlin and Giga Texas, which we expect to start production later this year. And lastly, we built a battery cell factory in the Bay Area. And this, even though it is a pilot plant, its capacity is large enough that it would be in probably the top 10 battery cell factories on Earth, despite being a pilot plant. Regarding the new Model S and X, we are launching we're super excited to announce the new Model S and Model X Plaid are in production now and will be delivered in February. So we've been able to bring forward the Plaid Model S and X, and so Model S will be delivered in February and Model X a little later. The Model S Plaid, we're actually in production now, and we'll be delivering next month. So this is a tri-motor Model S with a completely new interior. There are actually a lot of great things about this. I'll do another call about the Model S later, but it's really a tremendous improvement over the prior version. And the Model S will be the first. This Model S Plaid will be the first production car ever that is able to go 0 to 60 miles an hour in under 2 seconds. So no production car ever has been able to get below 2 seconds, 0 to 60. This is a luxury sedan that is able to go 0 to 60 in less than 2 seconds, and will have the ability to seat up to 7 people with the third row seats. So this is pretty nuts. This is faster, to be clear, than any car. It's not like there was a different type of car, like a two-door sports car, that was able to do better faster than this. This is the fastest accelerating car ever made that is allowed to go on roads in history. and like I said, we'll start delivering it in a matter of weeks. And and like I said, I'll do something that gets into the details of the Model S changes, maybe later this week or next. But it's really better in many ways. We will be actually raising the price of Model S for this new model. So people who got the old model, the new model will be $10,000 more. So hopefully people aren't too upset if they bought the old model last month, but this one's $10K more. So yeah, we think it's probably the best car of any kind at any price available in the world today. So, then with regard to full self-driving, we've made massive progress on full self-driving. If I recommend watching the videos of our public beta. So we've got, I think, almost 1,000 people in the beta at this point, and with each successive release of the beta of the FSD software, it's really improving rapidly. It's now very common for I drive the latest builds. It's very common for me to have no interventions on drives that I do, including drives to places I've never been to. So these are not pre-planned routes. The car's never been there before, and it's now actually more. It's more common than not for the car to have no interventions, even on a complex drive. So, and this is like basically, I'm highly confident the car will be able to drive itself with a reliability in excess of human this year. This is a very big deal. And thinking about how does one justify the value of the company being where it is? And I think there is a way, just with back of the envelope math, to potentially justify it, where if Tesla ships, let's say hypothetically, 50 or 60 billion dollars worth of vehicles, and those vehicles become full self-driving and can be used in robotaxis, uses robotaxis, their utility increases from an average of 12 hours a week to potentially an average of 60 hours a week if they're capable of serving as a robotaxi. So that's like roughly a 5x increase in utility. But let's, even if you say like, okay, well, let's just assume that the car becomes twice as useful as not 5 times useful, but merely twice as useful. That would be a doubling again of the revenue of the company, which is almost entirely gross margin. So it would mean it would be like, okay, if you made $50 billion worth of cars, it would be like having $50 billion of incremental profit, basically, from that, because it's just software. So, and if that were the case, then yeah, if you do 20 PE on that, it's like $1 trillion, and the company is still in high growth mode. So I think there is a way to sort of like, justify the valuation of the company where it is, using just the cars and nothing else, cars with FSD. And I suspect at least some number of investors are taking that approach. So in conclusion, while 2020 was a turning point for Tesla, and in terms of profitability, we believe this is just the beginning. We think 2021 is going to be even more exciting, and you don't know what to expect in a given year. Obviously, last year we did not. There were many things we did not expect. But assuming that 21 is a relatively normal year from an external standpoint, I think it's going to be a great year for Tesla. We've got a ton of many great new products coming out. We've got factories that are advanced factories that can start up production. It'll also make it easier having a factory in Berlin, one in Texas that can, just from a logistics standpoint, Texas can help supply the eastern half of the U.S. and Berlin can help supply Europe. And there's just fewer cars on boats, much less capital tied up with the cars that are on boats or being transported to customers. And I think the fundamental efficiency of the company will be much better with the factories, at least having factories on each continent and having 2 factories in the U.S. So I'm super excited about the future, really look forward to making it happen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And
unfortunately, we're not considering that at this time. We do actually offer an increase, a higher price than for a car with FSD than the one without FSD, and I do think that the market currently undervalues, or the consumer market, and arguably the stock market does probably undervalue just how good FSD is going to be. But we're not currently planning on allowing it to get transferred.
I had a reputation for outstanding customer service. Now it's impossible to even call a service center, and appointments are scheduled weeks out. Jerome?
Yes. Well, first, best service, no service. So we spent a lot of effort trying to improve the quality and the reliability of our cars. In the last 2 years, the frequency of service visits are reduced by 1/3. So customers have to come less frequently in service, which is really the goal, no service. And if service has to take place, we're trying to make it as painless as possible. One big effort there is to increase mobile service, which is now more than 40% of all visits in North America. We're trying to push that to 50% this year. 50% of service visits last less than 2 hours. So we're trying to service the cars very quickly so people can get their vehicles back on the road. And in terms of service appointment, it continues to improve. We have actually 140 service centers right now in North America. For 100 out of those 140, you can get appointments in less than 10 days. And we're going to make sure it's all service centers have a short wait time. We're accelerating, as Zach mentioned earlier, the pace of opening. In North America, we opened 11 centers in December, and we have plans to open 46 in the first half of this year. So that's what we're doing to improve service. In terms of phones, our emphasis is on the app. Really, we want all communications to go through the app, the Tesla app, and we're trying to move away from the phone. The app is much better than the phone. It can spot alerts directly from the car and schedule a service appointment. There is a written record of all communication between the customer and the service team. You can have pictures in there. You can take care of your payment without entering the credit card and doing all that stuff. You get updates on the service. And there's even more features that are going to come in the coming months on the app, and I think everybody will be happy, including the ability to spot where your service technician is and how far it is to coming from your car and what's going on there. So we are investing everything on the app, I think just like most other companies as well, and that's the way of the future.
Finished almost all of the Cybertruck engineering, so we're no longer iterating at the design center level or design level. We've got the designs fixed. We're getting to we'll soon order the equipment necessary to make the Cybertruck work. We're actually going to be using even bigger casting machines for the rear body of the Cybertruck because you've got obviously a bigger vehicle and you've got a long truck bed that's going to support a lot of load. So we'll be using an 8,000-ton casting press for the rear body casting as opposed to a 6,000-ton for Model Y. So 6,000-ton was the biggest casting press in the world. 8,000-ton, obviously, quite a bit bigger than that. And I think it's going to be an incredible vehicle. If we get lucky, we'll be able to do a few deliveries towards the end of this year, but I expect volume production to be in 2022. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I've had this question a million times for regular vehicles, even back in the early Roadster days, even before we had the Roadster out. People were saying, that somehow hydrogen is going to be a better means of energy storage in a car than batteries, and it's like, this is just really not the case. Hydrogen is it's number one on the periodic table. It's got very low density. It's got low density as a liquid. It's like styrofoam level density as liquid, and then it's only a liquid very close to absolute zero. So you have to have it's really not realistic to keep it as liquid. You want to have it as a high pressure gas that has even lower density. So you need a gigantic fuel tank volumetrically, and it's got to be very high pressure. It's a big pain in the ass, basically. If somebody was going to say use an alternate chemical energy storage mechanism to hydrogen, I'd say they should use propane or something like that, or methane, or those would be way better than hydrogen. And then having it be a fuel cell just adds even further complications to the situation. It's just crazy, basically. We're extremely confident that we could do long-range trucking with batteries. the math works out. If you just like take, say, watt-hours per kilogram of currently available cells and say, okay, how many, what weight would you need to go, let's say 500 miles, and to what degree does that affect your payload? And it's like, okay, you can do this. If you do it right, you basically have no effect on your payload, or almost nothing, and you can have a long-range truck. I mean, Jerome, do you want to add to that?
No, I agree with everything, and we see also an increase on the regionalization of trucks, and I think it will be perfect. The Tesla Semi will be perfect for it, yeah. And I'm looking forward to having some additional ones on the road very soon.
But basically, we do not see any issues with creating a compelling long-range truck with batteries. Apart from cell supply. Cell supply is the only thing. Cell supply is it. Yeah.
It's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. And unfortunately, that's all the time we have today. So thanks for all of your great questions. And we will speak to you again in about 3 months.